What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, so we're going to continue our coverage over Acts of Vengeance. Now, technically, we had already covered what has started this actual event, but let me go ahead and give you a quick reminder. You see, you had a mysterious character appear and actually team up with Doctor Doom. We kind of find out that these two guys realize that the reason why villains are always losing to heroes is because they keep going after the same heroes. What if the villains go after other heroes? Heroes they don't usually fight against and could most likely win against. That is the whole point of Acts of Vengeance, to see our heroes fight against other characters they don't usually fight against. And what would the outcomes be? Now, today's video is all about Spider-Man, and here is the reason why. Because this story arc is very important to a lot of fans out there of Spider-Man. This is the moment where you have Spider-Man gain cosmic powers. And yes, you heard that right. But first, let's dive into what led up to that moment. And so as we dive into today's story arc, we do pick up first with Amazing Spider-Man number 326. Now, around this time in Marvel Comics, we already know Peter Parker and Mary Jane are married, but also they had just gotten a new apartment in Soho. And so we do pick up with our lovely couple having a party, a housewarming party, and they have all their different friends there dancing and having a good time, including Harry Osborn, who just had a child. Now, while you have everyone celebrating, dancing, drinking, and opening gifts, well, out of nowhere, Mary Jane gets a very huge surprise. You see, somebody sent over a delivery service to deliver a bunch of food, some dessert, and also some flowers. And there's a nice cart with all that stuff. Now, at first, she believes, okay, it came from her husband, Peter Parker. But once she reads the card, she now knows where this all came from. And we kind of find out it all came from a character known as Jonathan Caesar. Now, Jonathan was kind of like Mary Jane's own personal villain, somebody who wanted to be with her, but of course she had rejected him. And he's a guy who does not take rejection very well. Now, he was locked up recently, but this is him saying even though he is in prison, he is always watching her. He is always keeping tabs on her. Now, Peter Parker is able to help his wife get out of this funk so that she's able to rejoin the party. But it's a way to remind us that there is a possibility he could come back into the lives of Mary Jane and Peter Parker. Now, something else I do want to mention is that around this time in Marvel Comics, the Daily Bugle was no longer under J. Jonah Jameson control. Matter of fact, it was recently bought out by another character known as Thomas Fireheart, aka Puma. Now, when it comes to Puma, in a recent adventure, Spider-Man had to help him out. And so as a way to pay Spider-Man back, he felt like the Daily Bugle is always giving out negative articles about Spider-Man. And that was a problem. And so Thomas said, fine, to pay back my debt for you helping me, I am going to buy out the Daily Bugle so that now the paper only publish positive things about you, no longer negative things about you. Now, we do pick up with the main bad guy for the first chapter. Yes, you heard that right, the first chapter. Each chapter today's video is going to focus on a different villain going after Spider-Man. And the first one is Graviton. Now, we have actually talked about Graviton before. When it comes to Graviton, he has the ability to manipulate gravity on different objects, on people on the earth. Sometimes he is able to apply even more gravity on people or remove gravity completely off somebody. It's all up to him. Now, recently he was contacted by the Kingpin because apparently the Kingpin made a deal with Graviton. He's always losing to the Avengers. So why not go ahead and send somebody else to take down the Avengers for Graviton while he takes down Spider-Man? Now, I kind of want to jump over to Aunt May. And the reason why, because around this time in Marvel Comics, Aunt May was dating a guy known as Nathan Lubinsky. Now, when it comes to Nathan, he was somewhat a great guy for Aunt May, and Aunt May really did care for the guy a whole lot, that it was kind of nice to see her with somebody. But unfortunately, recently, they had just found out that he was going to die, thanks to his heart. And so this is Aunt May trying her best to spend the last few days with the man that she loves, to make sure that his last few days are some great ones. And Peter Parker just wants to be there for her as she's there for Nathan. Now let's jump back over to Graviton, and here's the reason why. Because you have Graviton head over to the Daily Bugle. It's well known that Spider-Man has some kind of connection to the Daily Bugle. Now, like I said earlier, when it comes to Graviton, he has the ability to manipulate gravity. And so, of course, the entire building gravity is completely gone. Not completely, but to the point where it's no longer on the ground. The building is now floating in the middle of New York. Now, you do have Peter Parker head over to Empire State University to just check in with Dr. Swan to see what is going to be his next assignment for the week. Now, as soon as you have Peter Parker walk into the lab, he's then introduced to a character known as Max Lubish, and I really hope I pronounce his last name correctly. Now, when it comes to Lubish, he's a very interesting doctor, but apparently he's working on a new kind of experiment because he had discovered an unknown energy source, and that is going to be very important in later chapters down the road for this video. But Peter Parker has to quickly leave because as he looks into the city, he can see the Daily Bugle just floating in the middle of New York. Now you would think, okay, we're about to get a most epic battle between Spider-Man and Graviton. No, we don't. So you have Spider-Man arrive at the Daily Bugle, and as soon as he arrives at the Daily Bugle, he tries to fight against Graviton, but he's also quickly confused on why in the world Graviton is coming after him for. Like, he heard of Graviton, but he knows there's no connection between him and Graviton. Now, when it comes to Graviton, hey, he's on a completely different level, and Peter knows there's no way he'll actually win this battle. Now, this battle does get wrapped up very quickly, and here's why. So Graviton realized that he has the power to just crush Spider-Man, and so he uses different kinds of objects and just pile them on top of Peter Parker, hoping to crush Peter. Now, after doing that, Graviton just leaves. You heard what I said? He just leaves. He does not confirm that his attack actually worked and had killed off Peter Parker. He just leaves to go on with his day. And so after he leaves, well, you didn't have Spider-Man being able to just pop out the debris and be all like, hey, I'm still alive, but hey, Graviton is gone. What in the world was this mess all about? And that wraps up the first chapter of the story arc, with Peter wondering why did a villain he has never fought against come after him for. Now, as we jump into Spectacular Spider-Man number 168, we do pick up with another assassin coming after Spider-Man. Now, this assassin was actually sent by the Acts of Vengeance group as a way to help out the Kingpin, and we'll talk more about that later on. But when it comes to this assassin, he's better known as the Trapster. Now, when it comes to the Trapster, he was really more a Fantastic Four villain, and a lot of times he will work alongside with a few other characters to form a group better known as the Frightful Four, who would always go up against the Fantastic Four. Now, sometimes to some fans out there, when it comes to Trapster, he would be more of a Human Torch villain. But either way, he was sent here to go after Spider-Man, another character that Peter is not used to fighting. Now, when it comes to Trapster, he's very similar to Graviton, and let me explain why. So first off, when it comes to Trapster, he has no powers. He's kind of like the Wizard. He basically relies on the different kinds of gadgets to actually help him win the different battles that he's part of. And he also used a pace gun. Now, getting back to the point where I say he's kind of like Graviton, when it comes to his battle between him and also Spider-Man, it does get to the point where he does believe that he was actually able to defeat Spider-Man. And so he leaves. He leaves too early without actually confirming that he had killed off Spider-Man. And so right after he leaves, we do get confirmation that Peter Parker has survived the Trapster attack. Now, that battle actually took place right in front of Mary Jane. And so when it got to the point where it seemed, okay, Peter Parker is about to die, she freaked out. And honestly, she had the right to freak out about the idea of losing her husband, but luckily Peter was able to bounce back. But right after seeing him being able to bounce back and head home, she knew she also wanted to go home and to be with her husband because he barely survived that last battle. She almost lost the man that she cares for so much. But now we have to jump into the whole Kingpin part, because we do pick up with the Kingpin being confronted by our mysterious character. Now, here's the problem with this section right here. Let me explain. So this comes after the last chapter that we had covered. But when it came to Graviton, Graviton was hired by the Kingpin to go after Spider-Man, because at that point we were left to believe that the Kingpin was actually part of the Acts of Vengeance group. But when you run into this chapter right here, this is the moment where he actually does join the group, and this chapter does take place after the previous chapter. And on top of that, we see the Acts of Vengeance group telling the Kingpin that they had sent the Trapster as a way to help him out, to finally deal with the two people who had caused him the most problems when it comes to his different operations, Spider-Man and also Daredevil. But now we have to jump back over to Peter Parker. Now, when it comes to Peter, he does arrive at the Empire State University, where he's about to work on another experiment alongside with Max Lubish. Now, remember, when it comes to Dr. Lubish, he was able to locate an unknown source of energy, and he had created a machine that is going to allow him to tap into this unknown energy that comes from a different dimension. But this is going to lead into Peter Parker, well, becoming cosmic. You see, while you have the two characters trying to use the machine as a way to tap into this unknown energy source, Peter Parker is very worried about the idea the machine cannot handle that kind of energy. And he was correct, because right when the machine is about to explode, releasing all this new kind of energy that Max had discovered, that blast had almost hit Max. But luckily, Peter was able to step in the way to save Max, but he was hit by the blast. And so now he was hit with this unknown energy. And now he has fully become cosmic. Now, we do get a few examples of Peter Parker being now cosmic, but the main one I want to focus on is his cosmic awareness. Because after he does change into Spider-Man and does save some fellow students at the university, well, out of nowhere, he is able to sense all the different things that are happening to him in the city, not near him, but across the entire city. And that shows that now he has cosmic awareness. But then he was able to locate that Trapster is nearby. And so when it comes to Peter, it's time to get payback, because that man embarrassed Peter in front of his wife. Now, when it comes to the battle between Peter Parker and the Trapster, it actually does not last that long, but it does give us a lot of different examples that something is going on with Peter Parker, that he has become, well, cosmic. You see, when it comes to their battle, in the middle of their battle, you have Peter Parker able to create a web construct. Yes, you heard that right. He is able to create a hand out of webbing and being able to use the web as an attack to attack the Trapster. But hey, there's a few more examples we gotta talk about. Like, for example, he is able to shoot energy blasts out of his fingertips. He's also able to overload the gadgets that the Trapster is using. But by the end of this chapter, that is another assassin that Spider-Man was able to defeat very easily. But now we're left to wonder, what else could possibly happen to Peter Parker, because now he has a new range of abilities. Now, the final chapter for today's video is going to be over Web of Spider-Man number 59. Now, we actually do pick up with Peter Parker on the rooftop of his apartment building, kind of wondering with the new powers that he had recently gained, and kind of wondering where these powers could possibly take him. Now, he is confronted by Mary Jane, who's also showing that she understands that what Peter Parker is going through. It is a lot to process, the idea that you have gained these new kind of powers, you have no idea what these powers could possibly do and what these new powers could possibly take you to. But either way, you do have Peter Parker leave, and the reason why, because there is a big meeting about to happen at the Daily Bugle with this new owner. But now we have to jump over to Dr. Doom. Now, Dr. Doom, like I said earlier, is part of the Acts of Vengeance group, and he believes that he's actually in charge, not knowing that he's currently being used by our mysterious character. Now, when it comes to Dr. Doom, we see him having a conversation with Titania. Now, when it comes to Titania, around this point in Marvel Comics, she was really more of a She-Hulk villain. And matter of fact, when she got the call from Dr. Doom, she believed that she was going to go after She-Hulk, to only find out that no, her assignment is to go after Spider-Man, another assassin coming after our favorite webhead. Now, when it comes to Titania, she actually has a fear toward bugs. And so when it comes to Spider-Man being a spider-like character, she instantly freaks out and she's kind of scared of fighting against him. And that shows how big her fear actually is. But then you have Dr. Doom being able to tap her shoulder, and we kind of find out that he put in some kind of device that will fill her mind with rage to allow her to overcome her fear and to actually go after Spider-Man. Now we jump over to the Daily Bugle, where we pick up with Thomas Fireheart, the new owner of the Daily Bugle. Now, when it comes to the staff of the Daily Bugle, even though they're kind of happy about the idea of no longer, publishing negative things about Spider-Man, they really miss their old boss, JJ. And they're kind of wondering what Thomas is actually going to do with the company. And so you have Thomas realize that most of his new staff are not really down with him being in charge. And so his goal is to win them over. But while talking to them, well, out of nowhere, you have Titania appear, and she begins to attack the entire Daily Bugle. Now, the rest of the book is really more of Spider-Man fighting against Titania, but also getting some help from Puma. Now, really, when I say some help from Puma, I really mean more of he's just trying his best, but homeboy does not stand a chance against Titania. Now, when it comes to Spider-Man, he does actually stand a chance, but this is another character that he's not really used to fighting against. A character who could really do some damage to Spider-Man. A character who sometimes rivals against She-Hulk, which means her punches can do some serious damage to Spider-Man, but he's now cosmic. And so now he is able to actually withstand all of her attacks like they are nothing to him. And then he takes her down so easily. And we also do see some more examples of him being, again, cosmic. But after being able to take down Titania, we kind of find out that Dr. Doom was watching that battle. But Dr. Doom is very confused because his reports did not say how strong Spider-Man is at this moment. And so he's kind of wondering, what new powers did Spider-Man possibly gain? And can Dr. Doom tap into this unknown energy source? But this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.